everyone. Welcome to Foxon Media Digital. My name is Okeko. Today I'm joined by Rachel Lindley, Account Director, and Wigger Thierry, Director, Enterprise Sales at RWS. Welcome you both. It's great to have you on our channel.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Hi, great to meet you.
Okay, thank you. Before we get started, would you mind saying a couple of things about yourself and the work that you do?
Sure. So I'm part of the Tradiant team within RWS, and we help large enterprises with all of their online presence and content. So we optimize their content supply chain for creating content, managing content, reviewing content, and translating content, and then getting it out to the respective channels. And so we have technology and expertise around doing that better, doing it faster and more effectively, and making sure that everybody gets the right content at the right time.
And I'm Rachel Lindley. I'm an account manager here at RWS. I work together with Vega within the content technologies team, working primarily with Tridion and within the financial services sector. So really working with the different industries that fall within that sector on how to manage their content in that complex world of compliance and regulatory change.
Thank you both. So let's crack on. So Rachel, can you briefly explain to us a little bit about RWS and the solutions you have to support the asset management sector?
Absolutely. So RWS is a company that provides language and content services and solutions for different industries, including asset management. So we really help asset managers communicate effectively with their clients, the regulators and stakeholders within different languages and formats globally. We offer connected solutions for content creation, localization, quality assurance, and compliance. So we really support the whole end-to-end content lifecycle when communicating widely with a global audience. The one solution we'd really like to talk to you today is Tridion, our intelligent authoring platform, really built on the foundations of structured content.
Okay, thank you. Wigert, you work within content technology with RWS. Could you share some insights into the future of documents within financial services and what are the trends to see?
Yeah, absolutely. Currently, everybody's talking about generative AI and AI applications, and it seems to be like the hype and buzzword that everybody's looking for. And with regards to the complexity of regulations and policy changes, AI can really help optimizing the authoring process. So user-centered instructions, insight in what the right information is, and having the data at the right time without having to search for it or doing trustworthy chats with a large language model. So we see a lot of movement into enabling AI in supporting insights, supporting review process, and the consultation part of that. Last week, I attended the Knowledge Management Conference, and AI is everywhere too, over there, like it was at TSAM. And I foresee a similar challenge as we see with what happened with search a few years ago. The promise at that time was feed it into the search engine, and the search engine will make sure that the relevant content will surface on the top. We know now that is not true. So people expect something similar with AI, and then expect that you have trustworthy chats and no hallucination. Well, the examples that we've tested with customers, we know that's not true either. So you still have to enrich the content with knowledge graphs and metadata and all that sort of enrichment to ensure you can have trustworthy conversations with your large language models.
And how might a structured content solution help asset management firms to better manage their content?
So really going back to, as Vika explained, the explosion of AI and the different things that come with that, the large language models and generative AI, really are a delivery mechanism on top of that. So we see structured content as a future-ready enabler for these agile AI-driven capabilities. So without having your content in a structured, organized, and enriched format to begin with, you can't really do anything with it. A flat PDF will give you very limited outputs. So having your content organized, enriched, really helps leverage any of the technologies that are coming. And these are emerging and hitting us from all angles at the moment. But what we really see structured content as is providing a very sustainable ecosystem around how asset managers and companies are managing their content long term. So right now we see a lot within the industry that people are generating Word documents, they're copying the content into different Word documents and different formats, and that content is just growing at a vast rate because, of course, consumers want to consume more and more content faster than ever. And what happens when we create all of that content is there's a lot of systems in place internally that manage that. There are a lot of legacy systems, a lot of content out there that we have no control over. And the more content you have, the more systems you have to support that, the more maintenance is required, the more storage is required. And this really isn't sustainable long term within an ecosystem. And looking at structured content, it's really all about creating that content once and reusing that in multiple versions. So your content base doesn't grow as quickly as it does when you're copying. And it really enables that more sustainable ecosystem to be managed and maintained.
And the funny thing is, if you think that's a challenge in English, can you imagine if you're a global organization and you have to multiply that into 10 or 15 languages? That's almost unheard of to actually effectively manage that. So yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Can you share some examples from the finance sector of how your clients are benefiting from managing their content in that way? And what's the biggest ROI of structured content?
Yeah, absolutely. We see return on investment in two main areas. One is on the content creation side by reusing content elements, content blocks, or units of information. It reduces the time to create policies and procedures, operating instructions, regulated information, and it can be reused. And savings there are average between 30 and 70%, depending on the kind of application. And it significantly reduces the effort in both creation, review, and approval, and therefore publishing time. On the consumption end, having access to the right procedures or the correct information or knowledge articles is essential to do a lot of work. So finding the one right answer has saved our customers anywhere from 20 to 25% of their field operation organization, which is significant if you have a large number of people working for you. And that could be underwriters, it could be agents, it could be customer service people. They all need to have access to content in order to make that very effective. A different customer example is where one of our customers is using structured authoring to enable auditors in the field to have correct information at their fingertips. So if you're in the field doing an audit, you want to be really sure that you have the right information at your fingertips that is correct, that is state specific or industry specific, and you don't have to search for it. And they save millions of dollars every year as part of the result of that. Or alternatively, if you have a collection of regulated letters, and I recall an example where they had roughly like 400 letters, anywhere of between 5 and 8% is changing almost monthly because of regulatory changes. So if you try to do this in Word, you have a paragraph in there, and think about 400 documents that you have that paragraph in. I'll feel sorry for the people that have to find all the documents to update that paragraph. So structured authoring will sort of unify those elements and reuse them in all documents, and therefore you change it once and it's updated everywhere where it's needed. So that saves a ton of time and large ROIs. And other than being risk mitigation and all kinds of exposures and liability issues that may result as a result of having incorrect information being published.
Yeah, and I think the beautiful thing about that one as well is within structured authoring, it's really wrapped within a very comprehensive audit path. So you know who's touched the content, who's approved that content, has that been through compliance, has that been approved, when was that approved? So it really gives you that reassurance when it comes to risk and governance. Yeah. It's built into that solution.
Yeah. It makes governance a fun thing, right? At least you have access to where things are rather than being.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And from a compliance standpoint, I mean, that saved hours, days, months of time, especially when you need to submit things to regulators to have them validated. It really does change the game from an efficiency standpoint.
Absolutely.
So, lastly, Rachel, tell me a little bit about AI innovations and when it comes to regulatory compliance. Where will AI, Gen AI regulations go, and how can structured content accelerate innovation?
So this is the really cool thing about structured content and where it's going. And within Tridion and RWS, we have a big partner network. So we really work with industry experts at the things that they do really well. And we work with a couple of partners out there that really look at how AI can drive regulatory change management automation. So people are struggling at the moment. The regulations change so frequently, new regulations appear so frequently. And how do you reflect that in your policies and procedures on a day to day basis? So you have these authoritative um, audience that create all the regulations, the legislation, and the different things that we need to comply to specifically within financial services and asset management. Then you have your operations team who have to deliver out to customers and communicate externally and really manage that whilst maintaining compliance with these changing regulations. But how do you do that? And there's really cool innovations going on that we're working on right now, where Gen AI can really increase the efficiency when gathering insights into those regulation changes. And having structured content within a tool that's enriched, you can link the content you're creating to the different regulations that it references or that it's dependent on. So when a regulation changes, you can automatically be flagged to say, this regulation over here has changed. This regulation is linked to these different policies. You should have a look to see how that's going to be impacted and if things need to change. And therefore, when your policy changes, your associated procedure needs to change, and all of that is associated within the system.
Yeah.
So this becomes super cool from an efficiency standpoint and speed standpoint.
Yeah, it like creates automatic to do things, right? So, and you can have insight
Absolutely.
in what needs to change and trigger review cycles as part of that process. So that's really beneficial.
Absolutely. And it's a huge overhead at the minute. This is all done very manually. Often it's outsourced to some of the big auditing companies, which comes at a really high cost as well. So trying to manage this in a more automated change management capacity really could change the game. I think it's very exciting. I'm obviously very excited about these things that are coming where we see real business value behind them.
Anything to add?
No, I think that's a great input, and it's interesting because a lot of organizations don't always necessarily recognize the overhead that's associated to this process. But if you start measuring that, then you make it visible, and so the cost associated with these operations is so significant that they realize that they have to change in order to make this happen and to be adequately responding to the market requirements, because there's liability issues at stake if they don't conform to these new processes.
Yeah, I would say we see this actively in banking, in commercial and private banking. This is happening. So from an asset management standpoint, for me, it's the next evolution of this. We've started somewhere within financial services and people are starting to see the real value there. It's really interesting how transferable this really can be to asset management space.
Well, thank you both. It was great to have you on our channel, and thank you again for sharing some insights with us today.
Fabulous. Thank you very
Thanks
much
for
for
having us.
having us.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Be sure to follow our YouTube channel for more content on all the latest opportunities and challenges in asset management, wealth management, and ESG. And don't forget to give this interview a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button.